You're listening to the Pens Nation radio show on thepensnation.com. Follow us on Twitter at @thepensnation.
Two games left, and that is it for the regular season for the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's the Pens Nation radio show. I'm Nick. You can follow the show on Twitter at the Pens Nation. You can follow me at PensNation_Nick. Andy is also joining us tonight at PensNation_Andy. And special guest tonight, Gunnar Stahl from a lot of different sites, actually. Hockey Hurts, Hockey Buzz. And, I mean, if you don't follow Ryan Wilson, follow him at Gunnar Stahl. Great follow, always having great stuff out there on both of those outlets I previously mentioned. So welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're gonna get into a lot of stuff here. This is one of the last shows before the playoffs actually happens. I can't believe that we've played 80 games already, basically, and now the end of the regular season is here. It seems to have really flown by, hasn't it, Andy?
Yeah, it really has. I mean, when you think about last year, how it was a shortened season, I mean, I just feel like it went so quick. I mean, obviously last year went quick because, we didn't have a full season, but even this year, I felt like it just went so fast. And maybe it was because, we had a lot of twists and turns this season, and then we had the Olympics where they weren't playing, and then March was just packed with games. So, I mean, maybe that has something to do with it, but I agree. It went really, really fast, and I'm glad that the playoffs are here because, let's be honest, the Penguins don't really have much to play for.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to get the top seed in the East. They're basically locked into that second spot. All they really have to kind of see how things shake out is who they're going to play right now. Right now, if the playoffs started today, the Pens would be playing the Columbus Blue Jackets. That could all really change. Now, a real possibility is the Penguins could possibly be playing the Philadelphia Flyers in that first round. That, I think, has a lot of Pens fans really kind of worried in a lot of ways. But we were talking before the show that would be actually not that bad of a matchup right now, would it, Ryan? We kind of talked about how the Flyers just really aren't that good, are they?
I don't think they're a bad team. They've obviously come on strong since they had that very slow start. Giroux picked it up. He's obviously a Hart Trophy candidate this year. But the Penguins are finally getting healthy, and when Malkin gets back, I do feel that the Penguins have a significant advantage there. The only problem being the history involved and how they come unhinged when they play the Flyers. They're going to have to act mature and defeat a team like the Flyers if they have any chance of winning a Stanley Cup this year. So,
yeah, and
bring them on.
In a way, it's almost like you're afraid to play them because of how the Pens typically play against the Flyers. But at the same time, if they want any chance to go anywhere, they almost have to put these demons behind them, don't they, Andy?
Yeah, they definitely do. I mean, if you want to make some noise in the playoffs, why not do it in the first round? I mean, when the Penguins won in 2009, they had a lot of tough matchups. Even in the beginning. I mean, they had Washington in the second round, and I mean, there were just so many tough matchups. You eventually you're going to have to play some good teams, and if you do want to get past Boston, which I mean, I really think that they may have to play Boston to get to the Stanley Cup Finals because. I mean, Boston just looks amazing right now, and just the way that they play is it's perfect for the playoffs. I think in order to prepare for Boston, you need to beat the Flyers and get, as you said, get those demons, get past these demons because, what happened in 2012 is, something that those guys probably still have in their memory banks. I mean, that was just awful, the way that unfolded, and just a terrible series all around. It was a crazy one. And, the Penguins just, they have to get past that. I think that can give them a lot of confidence because, a lot of bad things were said about them after, that 2012 series, and that's why they remember that. And, a lot of people were calling for major adjustments, and nothing, not too much happened. But, if it happens again, it's going to, I think there will be some adjustments made if that happens again. But the Penguins, they need to be prepared to do that, and they can't play the Flyers games. I mean, that's, as Ryan was kind of saying, the Flyers, I don't really think they're a better team than the Penguins are, but they certainly know how to rattle the Penguins, and the Penguins can't fall for their games and, all the mind games that they try to do. So, yes, they absolutely need to get past Philly. And, I want Columbus in the first round. I want to win the first round series, but I also think that, maybe it would be healthy for them to beat a team like the Red Wings or even more the Flyers in the first round, to just get them kind of rolling into the playoffs, and hopefully they can move on to the Stanley Cup final if they do that.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of talked about that narrative after that 2012 series, and we're still reminded that, like, daily. If you play PlayStation, you can't play as the Penguins and not, like, and it doesn't even matter if they're playing the Flyers. It's like they talk about that 2012 series and how the Flyers just kind of really took it to them. Mish is now joining us. You can follow Mish on Twitter, also at HockeyMish. Mish, are you concerned at all about the possibility of facing the Flyers in the first round?
I don't know if concerned is the right word. They wouldn't be the first team I would pick by any means, but the Penguins are going to have to get over all of their issues no matter who they're going to play. If they play Detroit, no matter who they play, everyone knows the key is getting to the Penguins' head early on. That's what Philly did in 2012. That's what Boston did last year. Even if the Penguins end up playing Columbus, I guarantee they're still going to try and do the same thing, because everyone knows that's what you go for against the Penguins at this point. And actually, with Columbus, for that matter, Columbus knows that they're a team that's not as talented as Pittsburgh. We've seen what's happened in the regular season already. Columbus might go straight for that in Game 1 right off the first period. I don't think any matchup is necessarily safe. The Penguins just really are going to have to prove that they're over their mental issues no matter who they play.
Great point there. I mean, you talk about the Blue Jackets and, coming out tough. There is, I mean, it's one of those things where you have, like the Stanley Cup playoffs, you have to be careful what you wish for, because you just might really get it, and it might not be really what you wanted it to turn out to be. And, I mean, the Flyers, as much as they've just frustrated the Pens overall, I think this would be a great thing. It could be that thing, okay, that gets their blood going. Maybe make them a little bit scared so they actually play smart. Whatever it takes to really get over that major hurdle. Hey, if it's the Flyers, that's going to be an exciting series, and it's going to have everybody on edge. And, hey, if that's what it takes to get the Penguins' head out of their own butts right now, then do it. I mean, just bring it on. Let's start playoff hockey first and foremost right out of the gate. Like, just go for it. Mish, the next topic is basically your favorite. It's Kris Letang. Returned last night. What were your thoughts on his game last night?
I thought he was better than I expected, honestly. His skating looked great. I thought he showed his stamina was fine, his endurance was fine. I wrote in the post for the post-game thoughts that I thought his anticipation was a little bit off. He wasn't reading the game as quickly as I was hoping he would at this point, but, I mean, he still has 2 more games before the playoffs, so I think that'll come back to him. And we saw in that Jokinen goal, Letang, that whole play was Letang. He was just ridiculous, both with corralling the puck in the defensive zone, stopping and passing David Legwin in the defensive zone, carrying it up the whole way, reading the play, and taking the shot. Every part of that, Jokinen got the lucky goal out of it, but all of that was Letang, and you see what he brings right there. You have a guy that can carry the puck out of the defensive zone and can create in the offensive zone at the same time. I thought he looked fine. I think the anticipation will come back, and I was happy with his return.
Yeah, we all know like the skill set that he possesses and how he's just one of those players that is unbelievably frustrating at times too, because he doesn't fully hit his potential often. I mean, you watch him skate, and that was the first time I've really had a chance to watch him skate in 10 weeks, really. I mean, you don't really count the practices because you don't really skate at full steam in those, but like to watch him in a game skating, it's like, okay, you're instantly reminded of the potential this guy has. But you can't help but be frustrated by some of the stupid brain lapses that he has at times. He just never really hits his potential fully. Ryan, what were your thoughts on last night's game, and what do we expect out of him in the next couple games here going into the playoffs?
I'm very excited to have him back. He brings something to the Penguins that the other guys that replaced him just don't have. Bortuzzo, Englund certainly can't do the things he does. The coaching staff doesn't feel that Dupre can do any of those things quite yet. I think Kris Letang said it best. The thing that's going to take the longest for him to come around on is perhaps the timing. He said it might take a week, maybe two, but his conditioning looked great, his skating looked great. Like Mish said, that goal was completely him. He made that move at his own blue line with his agility and exploded out of that. And in 3 strides, he was at full speed going up the ice with that nice controlled zone entry and got the puck on net. Yeah, there was luck involved, but getting the puck into the zone, that wasn't luck. That was high skill. And his presence in the lineup, it's going to have a trickle-down effect. Every Penguins defense pairing now has a quality puck-moving guy. And for the last 2 months, we've had a lot of pairings that did not have one at all. So I think that's a great thing moving forward for the playoffs.
Yeah, Letang's zone entry is something the Pens have been missing dearly, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah, it certainly is. And, as you guys said, that Jokinen goal, that was just a beautiful piece of work there by Kris Letang. Not many defensemen would be able to do that. Probably would be willing to do that. Just go by everybody and go right to the net like that. And that was awesome to see. And yeah, the conditioning was definitely there. Still great skater. He's going to make some bad decisions sometimes. We're just kind of used to that. But like Ryan was saying, the trickle down effect. That's the thing that I like about this the most is that. It really just changes the whole dynamic of this Penguins team now that you have a legitimate puck mover on every pairing. And also, Olli Maatta and Matt Niskanen, we saw them kind of drop off a little bit towards the end of the season here, because they played a lot of hockey. They haven't – Matt Niskanen hasn't played, as a top 4 defenseman very often in the league before this season, and he played a ton this year because of all the injuries. And then obviously Olli Maatta, he's never played – this much hockey in his career. So I think that, having Letang and Martin back for that matter, both of those guys log a ton of minutes. That lets Olli Maatta and Matt Niskanen, not to say that their time should be limited, but I think they're more effective that way. They won't be as tired and things like that. So it's really, really nice to have Kris Letang back in the lineup. I was really happy with his return. But as you said, entering the zone, things like that, having another puck mover in there, those are 2 big things for the Penguins, and I think that they really needed that heading into the playoffs, so it should provide a really nice spark for them.
Yeah, it absolutely should, and just the emotions that kind of come up behind it, too, like getting a guy back in the lineup after something so catastrophic, kind of for someone so young. Now, he didn't have the best of playoffs last year. He kind of just looked like a mess in a lot of it. Is there any chance he could rebound with such a short window here, like 3 games kind of to go into these playoffs? Is there any chance he can rebound? And what do you expect out of him, Mish, in these playoffs?
Who was the topic?
Kris Letang.
Okay, that's what I thought. But then after Andy started talking about Maatta and Niskanen, I got lost for a second. I actually have complete faith that he will be fine in the playoffs. And I am hoping, you never want to wish a stroke or any type of incident like that on anyone, but I'm wondering if he learned a life lesson out of it, and maybe that will calm him down on the ice as well. We've talked about it. He has plenty of talent. He'll be fine in terms of that. His skating's great, endurance, agility, all of that. That's not an issue. And again, we talked about it. He created that goal. He still knows what he's doing. The timing will come back in the first round at the latest, I imagine. Maybe if he calms down a little, we might see the best Kris Letang we've ever seen.
He may simplify.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What was that, Ryan?
He may simplify his game, and I think that would do wonders for him. I think when he gets into troubles, when he tries to do too much, pins himself in an area where he's got to make a poor choice with the puck, and that's where those bad turnovers come over.
Yeah, he really tries to force his game a lot because he's so skilled that he he knows that he can do things that most people can't, so he actually takes those risks, and it's almost like he forces it, and it forces it into a bad position, and it ends up with a turnover. If he does simplify his game, that would be huge. That was one of the things I liked seeing, and this is another topic for another day maybe, but out of Simone Dupre, like simplifying his game from being kind of like that Kris Letang-ish player to more of a Paul Martin type player. If they can get guys to start thinking more like Paul Martin and making decisions like him and playing that kind of game, it's more of a simple, safe game. That's going to, I think, benefit them much better than trying to like force these plays up. You know, like they don't have to do a lot as defensemen on this team to be successful. They've got great forwards that they can get the puck up to do that. Like sometimes I think they do rely too much on their skill. Mainly Kris Letang. Hopefully that all erases itself out and we can kind of see a much better Kris Letang in these playoffs. Another guy that the Pens are looking to get back in the lineup here shortly is Tomas Vokoun. Vokoun is now in Wilkes-Barre on a conditioning assignment. Is there any chance, Andy, that this guy, I mean, Vokoun could be up and playing a game before the end of the season?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to say. Obviously, he's going to play at least one game, I think, with Wilkes-Barre. I don't know if we'll see how that goes. And I know earlier today, I think I saw something about how he said he was 90% sure that he was going to retire after the season. Depending on how this comeback goes, and that, you know, it's a shame that it has to end this way. But I think it probably makes sense because, you know, Jeff Zadkoff is now signed with the Penguins and everything like that after his extension, and he's played well. And, you know, Vokoun, I mean, I don't know how many teams would be willing to take a chance on him, knowing that, you know, hasn't played at all this season. And yeah, he's good, but I mean, who knows, you know, what kind of shape he's in, what kind of game shape he's in. And even if a team would be willing to take a chance on him, it may not even be for anything significant. So it may not even be worth, you know, for Vokoun to sign that deal, because, you know, he could be, you know, I don't know what his health situation is. Obviously, we won't know that. He's the only one that knows. But, you know, he wouldn't want to risk anything for something that's not significant, you know, like a big deal or something like that. So, I mean, maybe the last game, but I don't know. It almost seems like the ship has sailed, unfortunately. It was a great postseason last year. But I don't know, he may be running out of time. Sadly, it's, you know, such a great guy, such a great player, and he's really trying his best to get back into game shape. We'll see how he does in Wilkes-Barre, but I don't know. I have a hard time just based on, you know, the timetable that we've been kind of monitoring, you know, over the past few months. I mean, he's been practicing with the Penguins for a long time. And, you know, now he just got sent to Wilkes-Barre, and I guess it really depends on what he does in Wilkes-Barre. But I don't know. I don't see him starting with the Penguins this season, unfortunately for him.
And it seems like as a goaltender, it would take a little bit longer to kind of get up to the speed of the game. You know, you're going to be seeing a lot of shots quickly, and then on top of that, you're going right into the playoffs. So I'm not so sure how much this conditioning assignment will do for him in getting back into a game or not. I mean, do you see things the same way here, Mish? I mean, as Andy and I, or do you have a different view here?
I think one thing that benefits Vokoun is the fact that he's more calm and controlled with his positioning. He's not a reaction time goaltender. It's all fundamental technique that really gets him along. However, I mean, I don't think he'll come back in the regular season for sure. I figure those last two starts, Fleury will get one, Zadkoff will get one. And, I mean, this will be a bit cold and uncaring because this is kind of how I look at my hockey players. I don't think he should be playing for the Penguins anyways unless there's an injury. I think Zadkoff has done a great job, and I feel more comfortable going with the goalie that's backed up Fleury all season than throwing Vokoun back in. I know Vokoun did a great job last year in the playoffs and everything, but, I mean, the way Andy said it, his ship might have sailed is probably exactly the phrase I would go with.
Now, if the Pens have to rely on their backup goalie, they're pretty much in trouble anyways, aren't they, Ryan?
Yeah, this is all about Marc-Andre Fleury, not only for the Penguins, but for his own future self in his career in Pittsburgh. Tomas Vokoun was terrific last year. He's probably the only reason that the Penguins were able to get out of that Islanders series. And he's a good guy, but I just can't see him playing for the Penguins again. If he wants to continue his career, I think that's a choice he'll have to make. There's certainly teams out there that could use him. The Winnipeg Jets, for one, that could upgrade their goaltending situation. But I think it's going to be a Fleury-Zatkoff duo for the 2014 playoffs for the Penguins.
Yeah, and even going into next season, there's so much movement next year potentially with goaltenders that, I mean, you got Ryan Miller, you got Halak, and I don't really think that Halak's going to be kind of keen on signing back in Washington after kind of losing a little bit of trust with his head coach there. So you're going to be seeing a lot of guys moving teams, I think, next year. And, you know, it might be time to really hang him up for Vokun, which is a shame because I think he's still got something left in the tank. But it seems like the odds are really right now against him. Another guy that's moving on is Brendan Shanahan. Well, apparently, right now, rumors have him stepping down from his position with the NHL's Department of Player Safety to take a position with the Toronto Maple Leafs. How much is Shanahan into rug burn here? I mean, it was a no-win job to begin with the Department of Player Safety because, like, someone's going to love you, someone's going to hate you. But now to go to the Toronto Maple Leafs, I mean, they've got potential there, but they've been such a bad team for so long. I mean, they were just awful this year. And, like, the way they've collapsed, like, is he the answer there, Ryan?
He can't be much worse than what they have now. The key there will be if he can actually call the shots or if it's just going to be that conglomerate MLS-y kind of corporate feel where they have that arrogance of not perhaps maybe using some modern tactics with maybe some of the advanced metrics that did a pretty good job at predicting their demise this year. Shanahan does not have, front office experience, so it's tough to say, but he surely knows the game. He's been in a corporate capacity with the NHL. He does bring a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Credibility. He's a well-respected hockey legend, so who knows? You see other teams doing this lately, bringing in guys. Trevor Linden the other day, Steve Yzerman. So we'll see where it goes.
Mish, did you think he did a good job as like the player safety department head?
I mean, we can't put it all on him, and so I don't know. I guess I'd give him like an incomplete grade because it's not all on him. I mean, there are a bunch of people that have a say in it, and he doesn't answer to us or the players, really. He answers to management in the NHL. So, I mean, for what the NHL has quote-unquote wanted, I think he's done fine. I guess I would say I haven't loved the job he's done, but it could have been much worse. He improved it a little bit. I don't know. I'm giving him an incomplete.
I think he just got tired of making videos.
I think that was the best part of his the whole thing because
he was actually. He did, though,
I like
at first.
Yeah, it really was because
no
gave some clarity.
There's transparency there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to kind of argue with a lot of those, like not the suspension, but like the reasoning why the person got suspended because it's clear as day right in front of you. Ryan, who did a better job in this capacity, like Campbell or Shanahan?
Same, because neither of them actually called the shots.
Yeah, that's true.
Mish said it best. It's what the NHL wanted. Shanahan did come in, and he dropped the hammer right away on big-time suspensions. If you remember, James Wisniewski was suspended for 8 regular season games that stemmed from a preseason incident, and there were a few other big suspensions right when he got the job, but there were some grumblings about general managers, owners complaining about how long the players were being suspended, and his power pretty much got neutered after that. And the videos kept coming with the great explanations, but the power behind the suspensions, it just wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of people expected it to be much different, like a much different outcome. I think, like, oh, finally someone's going to come in here and clean up the whole mess that, like, Campbell created. But it ended up, like, great analogy there. He ended up getting neutered by the owners and everybody and it ended up being the same. Like, nothing really was accomplished. He did an okay job there, and, I mean, you recognize who he is, but it really felt like they really kept that good old boys network, honor the code kind of mentality, like that old school mental hockey kind of mentality, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah. I think we're talking about Brendan Shanahan, correct?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, both in a way. I mean, Shanahan, it kind of continued that whole mentality, I think, in a way. Like, maybe not as much, but a bit. Yeah.
I mean, with it's funny. Well, at least, with us, we didn't make a song about Brendan Shanahan. Colin Campbell, we had a parody song about him. So in that regard, I guess.
We just felt bad because he was neutered. You can't make a song about a guy that got neutered.
Yeah, but, Brendan Shanahan, I think, I thought he did a pretty solid job. Colin Campbell, we made a song about him, but I wasn't a huge fan of some of the things he did, but I thought Shanahan kind of took it to the next level a bit with all the videos and all that stuff, and just really good explanations. And I saw the TSN had listed some of Shanahan's deputies. Stefan Quintal or Brian Leach could be replacing Shanahan for the just for this season, I guess, on an interim basis. So keep that in mind as well if Shanahan does go.
What a thankless job. Who would want it?
I know.
It really is.
I'll take it.
You can...
Where can I apply for that?
Put it online.
NHLjobs.com. Yep.
Honestly, they need a rubric that,
they kind of do.
is straight, rigid. A, B, and C happen. This is the punishment. It has nothing to do with injury. It has nothing to do with the caliber of player involved. This is the penalty, and you need to have multipliers for multiple offenders that add to the point system there. I'm kind of tired of seeing suspensions based on injury because I don't think that's a true deterrent at all.
No, it's really not. Like, the first-time offender, like, that's bogus. I mean, anybody can snap and go crazy and cause someone's career to just be over. And if it was the first time they've done that and it was a lapse of judgment, they get, like, 10 games. That's really not fair. I mean, it does need to be a little more... I mean, there's a huge balancing act here. Like, you can't be like, okay, well, he's out as long as the other guy's out. Like,
no, you can't do that.
You can't
do that. You can lay vicious Brooks Orpik on Taves hits. What, is Orpik going to be out for the rest of the regular season because Taves got hurt?
Yeah,
you can't do it like that.
Unfair. No, but you would have to kind of put some deterrent in place that would actually be a deterrent. Can't have this variable kind of, this guy gets this many games and this guy did the same exact thing but only got like one, and so it's really not a fair and biased. I mean, it's a broken system right now, and it's a thankless job. And I don't think anything ever really is going to get seriously changed within it because I think the mentality of hockey, it's been done this way for so long. And it might slowly and gradually get better, but it won't get to the point where it's going to be the way it needs to be. But
at the end of the day, there are just way too many people to please for them to ever fix it well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're a puppet master at that point. You're not the puppet master. You're the puppet.
Pretty much.
Master. Yeah. So,
Shanahan's going to make a farewell video on his Mike Rupp. This Mike Rupp hit on Oshie. Maybe that'll be his farewell.
Doug Murray as well tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
Again?
Yep.
I missed this. He's too slow to miss. Man.
Well, he's back at it.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Well, it gives Shanahan a chance to kind of deter everyone from looking at the puppet master taking the hand out of the puppet. So that visual never needs to be thought of. So, all right, we've got the last thing on the docket today. We've got the playoff matchups. I'm going to refresh so these are accurate. And we'll go through these playoffs. We'll start in the Western Conference first. We'll give our opinion on how many games we think the series will go and who will come out on top. So if you're new to this, we do this typically on Mondays, but we've been slacking a lot lately. So we're going to be doing these on Thursdays. And this is the last one, isn't it? Or will there be one Monday?
Yeah, the regular season ends in like 3 days.
Yep, this is the last one.
It's flown.
We'll do a real one next week.
Yeah, legit.
All right. Out west, St. Louis and Minnesota. Andy, who do you got?
This is, again, pretty easy one for me. I know
Minnesota just won 4-2. Keep that in mind.
I know.
Yeah, if they got John Curry, and holy crap.
Yeah.
I actually saw him live in Buffalo as a Penguin. Was that his only start?
I think he had like 3. So
I think he
I saw 33% of his starts. Nice.
I used to watch him here in Wheeling. Like he used to play in the ECHL.
Yeah, I remember that.
Awful.
Yeah, but I mean, Minnesota. I mean, they've been playing pretty decent hockey recently, and we'll see how TJ Oshie is. I don't know exactly what his status is after that hit, but I really like the Blues. Just the system that they play, the defense that they play. I just don't see Minnesota getting past them. So I'll say St. Louis in 5. I'll say, yeah, that sounds about right.
All right, Mish.
with the body of work, it's really hard to pick against St. Louis, but they have looked awful the past 2 weeks. They are not playing like the team that we saw for 90% of the regular season right now, and I would say that's a bit of a concern. Somehow they acquired Ryan Miller, and now Ryan Miller tends to be the only one who shows up when he starts. So, yeah, same treatment as he got in Buffalo, which makes no sense.
Status quo.
So,
he's cursed.
I think I would end up going. I'll still say St. Louis, but it might be 6 or 7 if they keep playing like this.
Yeah, the body of work. I mean, 4-1 season series right now. But at the same time, St. Louis is kind of just coasting on autopilot right now until the playoffs start. So they don't really have a ton to play for. They're pretty locked in. All right, Ryan, who do you got in this series?
I think the Blues will win in a short series, but I do have some concerns. It's not just TJ Oshie getting elbowed tonight. I believe David Backes is in a boot right now, and that would be a real tough loss for them. One that I do think they could get over in round one, because Ryan Miller is an X factor. He can win games on a bad team. He certainly can win games on a good team. So that trade might get them through a little injury issues in round one pretty smoothly. So Blues in a short series would be my pick.
All right, moving on to the next series, Chicago and Colorado. This one's been strange because as long as we've been doing these, this has been the exact matchup every time. And it's been kind of a head-scratcher because season series 4-1 with Colorado, but you don't expect Colorado to really take it to Chicago the way that they have. So, Andy, who you got coming out on top now?
Yeah, I mean, this is the one where I try to change my mind every time, but I really, it's so hard to pick. Obviously Chicago, defending Cup champs, they have the talent, they have the experience. And then Colorado, they have a lot of young talent, obviously, with Nathan McKinnon, the favorite for the Calder this year, and Varlamov has played outstanding in goal. He's definitely a Vezina candidate. So, I mean, there's a lot of great players on the Avalanche. Patrick Waugh has done some great things, but one thing I worry about, as I said, Chicago has the experience. I don't know Patrick Waugh, obviously, he's been through a lot of playoff series, but some of those players haven't been able to go, into the playoffs or deep into the playoffs. So that's where I kind of put the edge for Chicago there. I do think, though, it could go 6 or 7 games. So I think it'll be a series that goes a while. But I'll take Chicago because they have the experience. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if Colorado were able to pull that one off, because they do have a really good team. They have really made an impressive run this year, no doubt. One of the best turnarounds in a while, because I believe they were the worst team in the Western Conference last year.
I would go with. I'm going with Chicago. Who are we kidding? If they get Kane and Taves back healthy for the start of the playoffs, I think having them fresh is huge. Plus Colorado without Duchesne, and just the experience with Chicago. I'm going to Chicago. I'm going to say 5, actually, for them.
All right, Ryan.
I'm going to preface this by saying Colorado's been a great turnaround story. They've done some nice things this year. I do, however, think they are fool's gold, especially going up against Chicago. I think they are a poor possession team. Varlamov has been very good this year, but they're riding extremely high PDO numbers all year long, and I think that kind of is like Maple Leafs West. And if you're going to play the defending Cup champs, I just don't see how that's going to hold up in a 7-game series. I think Chicago, with Taves and Kane back in the lineup, that will be Chicago in about 5 games.
See, you bring up a lot of great points there, but I do think Colorado's got a fighting chance. Although, as long as Taves and Kane are fresh, I mean, that's going to make a big difference, because here's a team that's been going deep for so long. You know, eventually it's going to take its toll on you, especially in an Olympic year. So, and they had quite a bit of Olympians too. So, younger legs, Colorado. But
how long is Duchesne out?
It was 4 weeks as of a week and a half ago. So.
Oh,
wow. At least from the initial diagnosis, I assumed
series.
it would be first round.
Yeah, that's too much of a loss there. Perhaps if he's in there, they got a puncher's chance of getting on a roll, kind of like Leafs versus Boston last year, which would be the perfect scenario for them going up against Chicago for reasons that I said. Colorado kind of mimics some trends of Toronto, and Chicago, obviously, and Boston, very similar teams. So without Duchesne, that's going to be tough.
Absolutely. Is moving over to Dallas and Anaheim. Andy, who you got?
Well, I said Anaheim last time. I'm going to stick with that. As I said last time, Dallas, they have a good mix of some young players and some veterans on that team. But, Getzlaf and Perry and all those guys on Anaheim. And John Gibson. Can't forget about John Gibson. He's been doing some good things there in the time that he's
for them.
Yeah, he's been really solid. I mean, they have a lot of good goaltenders. Let's put it that way. And they have Letang and Thomas for Dallas, and that's really where I think is the big difference in goaltending. So I think I'll go with Anaheim in 5. I don't know. I mean, I like the way Dallas is constructed. I don't know. I don't like the matchup against Anaheim for them.
I'm pretty much just going to echo Andy's sentiments. I would go Anaheim in 5. I think Letang probably steals a game, but aside from that, just there really isn't anything on Dallas I like better than Anaheim. So, Anaheim in 5.
I don't have much more to add to that. It will be Anaheim in 5. I do love Dallas's first line, though. Tyler Seguin has been terrific this year. Jamie Benn made the most of his spotlight over in Sochi. But if we're being honest, and I'm looking at their depth chart right now, Alex Goligoski is in the first pairing and Dustin Jeffrey is on the 4th line. So how far are you really going there?
It's rough.
If you're playing the Capitals, you're going real far.
They've actually made a pretty quick turnaround actually in Dallas, and I mean the trade happened to be a big part of that too, and they've rebuilt quickly by signing veteran guys like Yager a couple years back and trading them for assets, and they've been able to do a good job, and to be in the playoff hunt, that's big for them. I don't see them getting past Anaheim, though. I think they're just too deep, too powerful, and too quick for them. So bye, Dallas. Sorry about your luck. You just ran into a buzzsaw. Best series, I think, out west right now, L.A. and San Jose. What a series that is going to be. That should be the conference final, but you're going to get that matchup in round 1. Andy, who you got?
Yeah, it's going to be quite a first-round series, and it's one of those ones where it's a coin flip one. But San Jose, they have a great team, obviously, and both of these teams are just so hard to play against, and whoever comes out of this series might be banged up a bit, and it's going to be tough for them to continue to roll because there's just so many good teams in the Western Conference. It's unbelievable. But one of these two teams is going to be eliminated, so I guess the other ones that aren't involved in this series are kind of happy that they're meeting so early. But I'm going to say Los Angeles in 7. Jonathan Quick is a hell of a goaltender, and Drew Doughty's been playing really well this year, and there's just LA just they have they just have that. I just have that feel with them, that they've been here before. They have, although they have 10 less points than the San Jose Sharks do this year. That really doesn't mean much, honestly, because we saw what they did in the postseason a couple years ago when they won the Stanley Cup, and just kind of have that same feel again. They have the season series lead 3-2. So I'll go with the Kings in 7. I do like this LA team once again in the postseason. They seem to be built for the postseason, and I think they can squeeze by the Sharks in 7 games.
Both of these teams have been trending sideways recently. I give San Jose the easy edge on offense. I give LA the easy edge on defense. Going off of that, it'll come down to goaltenders if you ask me, and we all know I'm not going to bet against Quick, so I'd go LA in 7 as well.
Man, I just hope it goes 7 games. This might be the best playoff series in the entire playoffs.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It would be nice if we can actually get 2 full rounds of this and just get rid of 2 other teams in the West.
The problem with this series is whoever moves on to the second round is going to be banged up. And that's very fortunate that the Ducks were able to get first place, because that's the only way I think that the Ducks would beat either of these 2 teams. I feel so bad for the Sharks. If they lose this series, it's going to speak right into that narrative that's been going the last 5 years, and I don't think it would be fair this year. I'm gonna throw them a bone. I'm gonna say Sharks in 7, and I think Thomas Hertl coming back is going to play a role in that. So he should be back in the next few days. I'm going to go Sharks.
It's so tough to look at that division because, as you said, if San Jose loses, it plays into that narrative. And talking about Anaheim, even if Anaheim loses to either San Jose or LA in the second round, that goes to Boudreau's narrative. So it's going to be a bunch of narratives filled one way or another, and no one deserves it in the Pacific this year.
No, definitely not. I mean, I do like Ryan's pity for the San Jose Sharks, though, because, for so long they have been underachievers, and you kind of run into this playoff matchup. It's so almost unfair if they do lose, so it's kind of like, okay, let's throw the Sharks a bone here. Let's see. It would be great to see them kind of get over that kind of hurdle, too, like we talked about the Pens earlier with the Flyers, like exercise those demons with a tough playoff series and get over that and see how that propels you going forward. Maybe that happens with San Jose. They're a great team this year, and they definitely deserve a much better outcome than getting the Kings in round 1. So we'll see what happens there. That's going to be a great series. Moving over to the Eastern Conference now, we've got an original 6 matchup to start things off with. Detroit right now, kind of how things are settling out right now, is Detroit and Boston. Detroit winning this season series 3-1. That's a bit of a shock because they've been injured and old all year. Yeah. So, Andy, who you got coming out?
Yeah, it's I got to give Detroit. Another playoff spot with 23 straight years, unbelievable. Especially after what has happened this year with Zetterberg and Datsuk out, and they've just had a ton of guys out all season long, and great job by Mike Babcock to continue that playoff streak. Nyquist has been big for them, obviously, and we saw how they look pretty good against the Penguins. Mm-hmm. So, but they are playing a Boston team that is just very, very hard to play against in the postseason. And Tuukka Rask is having an unbelievable year. So I do think it'll be a good series just because it's Detroit. Even though they're old and even though they may be hurt, they always find a way to be Detroit. And it's just so Detroit to to make it, a long series. So I'll say Boston in 6 games.
I would go with Boston in 7. Boston has so much depth that I can't pick against them, but I have to say I'm very impressed with how Detroit has played over the past month and a half. And, I mean, they're a team that's starting to get a little healthier as well. Coaching Babcock versus Julian, I think, is a fantastic coaching matchup. It's rare that I will pick out a coaching matchup, but that's one that I'm excited to watch to see how they match up against each other. And I think Detroit will give Boston fits at times, but I think Boston still has too much to overcome in the end.
I can't pick against Boston. I just don't see an edge that Detroit would have over them. Henrik Zetterberg, his status up in the air, not really too sure if he's going to be in the first round. He needs to be playing if they have any kind of chance. He's their Patrice Bergeron with maybe a little bit more of an offensive upside. Goaltending goes to Boston, defense Boston, forwards obviously Boston. Boston's really good, so Boston 5. It's not much to add to that. They're just really good.
I mean, they're really good. But yeah, 5 or 6 somewhere in there seems to be about pretty fair. I mean, because Detroit, they're likely going to steal 1 or 2 games out of that series. So just based off of experience and Mike Babcock being a heck of a coach, and so we'll see. Tampa Bay and Montreal season series 3-1 for Tampa Bay. Andy, who you got?
Well, I think the last time we did this, I predicted Tampa Bay, but Ben Bishop, he's injured now. We don't know when he's coming back. They said out for the remainder of the regular season. I don't, that's a little weird to me. That maybe he'll be out a little longer than that. We don't know, but if Ben Bishop isn't in there, I don't see Tampa Bay being able to compete with Montreal and Carey Price and PK Subban, and Montreal, the only Canadian team, by the way, in the playoffs. So without Ben Bishop, I actually like Tampa Bay's team, but in goal they have to have Ben Bishop in there, and if they don't have him, I don't see them getting past Montreal. So I'll say the Canadians. I'll say the Canadians in 5 if Ben Bishop is not in goal.
I probably would have gone Canadians either way, but if Bishop is healthy and starts the series, I'd probably say Canadians in 7. Without him, I agree with Andy. I'd move it to Montreal in 5. It's too much of a drop-off in goaltending for Tampa Bay to handle. And Montreal, Montreal can be frustrating to watch at times, and sometimes they don't play up to their potential, and you never know what's really going on in Terrian's head either at times, but the talent is there for them to put Tampa Bay away.
This is a tough one for me. A battle of my 2 hometown NHL guys in Brian Gianta and Ryan Callahan. That aside, I don't think Bishop's going to be ready by the beginning. I think he's going to be out to at least start the series, and I think that'll be too much to overcome. So I think Canadians in about 6.
Moving over to the series, the only one of the series right now that ends up being a season series that has been a sweep. The Columbus Blue Jackets and the Pittsburgh Penguins. 5-0 season series in favor of the Pens, obviously. I think there's a lot of good for this series. I think mainly for the Columbus Blue Jackets being able to kind of find a true rival now, because this is basically... This could be 7 home games for the Pens, essentially, but that in and of itself will kind of spark a playoff rivalry, and it would be a lot more fun. So this could be a good thing for them economically and as a team. So we'll see what happens there. Andy, who you got coming out on top on this series? I think this is going to be a clean sweep, though, isn't it?
Yeah, Columbus is going to sweep, right?
But this whole city will be
no more
fire.
whiskey for Andy.
That would be, I couldn't even imagine what would happen after that. But, yeah, good for Columbus getting the playoff spot. Their second time they'll be in the playoffs in their franchise history. So good for them, and I absolutely agree. I think this is kind of the series, when Columbus moved to the Eastern Conference, I mean, I think we had hoped to see this at some point, just because of, the possible rivalry that could come out of a playoff series between the Penguins and the Blue Jackets. And the Blue Jackets already doing their thing where you have to be an Ohio resident to purchase playoff tickets. So knew that was coming. So, it'll be great for them, but I don't see it ending too well if they do play the Penguins. I usually don't pick sweeps, but I mean, I'm not going to pick a sweep, but I mean, I think this is probably the closest one that I would have picked a sweep. So I'll go Penguins in 5. Columbus. Bobrovsky's he's a good goaltender. I like the way he's been playing recently, but he can't do it all himself, and I just don't. I don't think they have enough depth to beat the Penguins. So I'll go Pittsburgh in 5.
I will go Pittsburgh in 6. I'll say Bobrovsky steals one of the games, and I will say that Columbus's home crowd will actually steal a game for once. Because I have to imagine if this does happen and this rivalry does actually build up, that place will be insane, and I, for once, think it'll be difficult for Penguins fans to get tickets. This is what Blue Jackets fans want. They want revenge on all of the regular season invasions, and they can get it all right off the bat right here. If you look at the season series, actually, 4 out of the 5 games were before the new year. And the only game that was on this side of the year, March 28th, was a 2-1 win for Pittsburgh. And every game has actually been relatively close. I think all 1 or 2 bowl games, I think there was a 3-0 with an empty netter maybe. But I think it'll actually be a closer series than people think in the way it's played out. But I still think Pittsburgh just has too much on Columbus, just on the overall roster, to really be stopped. So I'll say Pens in 6. And it's crazy to point out that if Columbus actually does beat Pittsburgh in one of these games, that will be their first ever playoff victory.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that is true. I think this is terrific that Columbus, A, made the playoffs, and B, could get the Penguins, because they deserve this. They've had a rough go as a franchise. They had to deal with being in the Western Conference. They had bad teams. I actually think that they have a potentially great hockey market, and maybe a Penguin series will be the thing that really jumpstarts their love with hockey, with Ohio State football. When that goes down, January on can be hockey time for Columbus. I, too, feel as though Penguins in a very short series. One of my main concerns for Columbus is the health of Nathan Horton. Not really sure how long he's going to be out for. I believe he has a lower body injury. And just the thought of Jack Johnson being up against Crosby or Malkin is enough to pick the Penguins.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fun storylines there. How far do you see that series going, though?
5 at most.
5, yeah. All right, last one in the East, once again, is the best one. This one's been one of those ones also that has been all along the way. It's the Flyers and the Rangers, and that's going to be such a physical, hard-fought battle that whoever's coming out of this one is coming out a little bit beaten up, much like L.A. and San Jose. So, Andy, who you got?
I think the last time I did pick the Flyers, but kind of having a change of heart now. Rangers 7-2-1 their last 10, Philly 3-5-2 their last 10. You think about the goaltenders, obviously you're going to take Lundqvist against either of those goaltenders in Philadelphia. Flyers are, trending down a bit, but, with I don't even know if the Penguins will want to win that game on Saturday or what they'll try to do, but Philadelphia is, they're a dangerous team, I think, but I'm going to pick the Rangers this time. I like what they're doing. I think Marty St. Louis is starting to get a little bit more comfortable there. So that'll definitely help them, and obviously they have Lundqvist, so they have a huge edge in goaltending. And in a series like this, where it's going to be 6 or 7, sometimes goaltending is that difference. So I'll take King Henrik and the New York Rangers. I'll say 7 games.
I'm going to go Rangers in 5. The Rangers are trending up. Philadelphia's trending down. Goaltending matchup, you're obviously going to pick Lundqvist 99 times out of 100. Actually, you might pick Lundqvist 100 times out of 100 in this matchup. In Philadelphia, I think the Rangers are kind of in Philly's head in some ways. So I'm going to go with Rangers in 5. I don't think it'll take long for them.
Mish, I'm going to have to agree with you. I think the Rangers are a really good possession team. They're, I think, 6th overall in the league. So they have the puck, and the few times they don't, you got Henrik Lundqvist to bail it out there. I do think Marty St. Louis will find his gear in the playoffs. He's still a great player. I know he had a slow start there, but I like that trade for them. I think it gives them a little bit more of what they didn't have as opposed to keeping a guy like Callahan around. So I think the Rangers are a much better team right now. So Rangers in 5.
All right. Yeah, it's really hard to disagree with the Rangers picks here because just the way they're turning, they're actually starting to find their stride going into the playoffs, and that's exactly when you want to do that. So they're going in on a hot note. Philadelphia's coming in kind of on that kind of downward spiral a little bit, and let's just hope that continues for them, where they just keep losing, and then they end up losing out maybe in 4. I would love to see them just flame out just because I just despise that city. So whatever makes them miserable makes me happy, and I'm okay with. So
well said.
I'm hoping for a sweep, so whatever it takes. So I was kind of sad that they made it into the playoffs, and I can't even remember what our bet was in the beginning of the season. Now I'm going to have to go back and listen to that first show, but I thought I had him not making the playoffs.
I don't remember.
Or did I have him making the playoffs? I can't remember.
No,
But anyways,
Casey
owes me 2 beers.
Thing about the Devils, yeah.
Yeah, so Casey's a little bit bitter about that, but tomorrow night, Permanis, Casey's got 2 beers for me.
Yes.
I'm excited about that. So, because I'm cheap. So, well, that's going to do it for us tonight on the Pens Nation radio show. You can follow the show, like I said, on the beginning of the show, at the Pens Nation. You can follow Andy at Pens Nation _Andy. You can follow Mish at Hockey Mish. You can follow Ryan at Gunner Stall, all one word. Stall, like Jordan, not like the bathroom. But yeah, and you can follow me at Pens Nation _Nick. Guys, thanks for coming on tonight, and let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here.